he gets really nervous if someone says they're going to get a tattoo. So he just doesn't, he does not agree with a lot of things that I talk about. But, he'll listen to me, and I think that's important because, something may stick. I don't know. My mom, she is 85 years old, and she is, all about, politics. She's I think she's like number 2 to the Pope. She's very religious, but her, political views are, in line with some feminist ideas as well. So I think that we have to recognize that people can, hold different kinds of ideas at the same time. I think we all do.
Okay, who has a question? Yay, Jen!
This is really exciting. And you can ask either all of them or a certain person.
Okay. If all of you could recommend one feminist core text or feminist writer that emerging feminists could get into, what would it be and why?
I would probably recommend The Purity Myth by Jessica Valenti, and it is all about how virginity and chastity are social constructs. They are not real, physical, tangible things. And the ideas of purity, virginity, and chastity are mechanisms to keep women from expressing their full selves truly. And in the case, it goes into great detail about how we're raising young women these days to believe that they should value their virginity more than they should value their intelligence or altruism or their wit and humor. So I think that's a really valuable text to read, especially right now with the prevalence of abstinence-only sex ed.
Does that microphone work?
Yes. No? I think it just times off.
Okay.
Turn it back on.
All right, I'll be fast. Jessica Valenti, like Lauren said, that's Full Frontal Feminism was her first book. That was her first book, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Full Frontal. And that is such a great introduction to feminism, I feel like. Don't be thrown off by the cover. I understand that it's a little problematic, like a skinny white woman naked. But if you get inside the book, don't judge the book by the cover. It really lays out feminism, and it's really, I think it's really great to read, even as someone who kind of majored in feminism. I mean, it was women's and gender studies, but that's kind of majoring in feminism. And I picked it up as a graduate student, and I loved the book. And then also, I would recommend Bell Hooks' Feminism is for Everybody. Again, I like Bell Hooks because she identifies as, a female-bodied, lesbian, black feminist. So if you want to talk about intersectionality, she is the author to read.
Well, I haven't studied women's and gender studies, so I'm coming at this from maybe a little disadvantage and haven't read as much feminist literature. One of the basic books I read in the intro literature class was The Vindication of the Rights of Women by Mary Wollstonecraft. I realize it's older, but I think it's a classic, and that obviously it's way up there for me.
I think one of the books for me during my master's work was called Campus Life. I think it's Susan Horowitz is maybe the author. But it's about campus life at a university from a historical perspective of not the academics, but what students were doing outside of class. And there's some very interesting pieces in there about when women came on campuses and what that meant for them and their interaction with men, and the journey that has taken from no interaction to very odd interactions and to know, just that whole journey. So I think that's really interesting for a historical perspective of campus life. A book that I've recently read is called Half the Sky, and the two authors totally escape me right now. It's a husband and his wife and their travels that they did and looking at the different oppressions of women across the world. And just, it's an easy read, it's eye-opening, it's maddening, it is challenging to think about, but it's also very motivating and inspiring and all of those good things too, so I would highly recommend that.
Sorry. One, I would recommend full frontal feminism, as Kim did. I was actually asked a similar question in a job interview once, and that was what I told them. Full frontal feminism, I would definitely recommend reading it. I think that you should read it, and I spewed on and on about it for about 20 minutes, and I talked longer on that question than anything else in the job interview, and he never called back. But if he took anything from that interview, I hope it was that, because it's written very well and very informally, and I think that people who are just getting interested in feminism and aren't really sure what it's about or if it's for them, definitely speaks to you at a basic level that it's such an easy thing to jump on board with. And then two, I would recommend for any other nerdy kids in the crowd, Fun Home. It's a graphic novel, and it's really awesome because it is written by a woman who was raised in a funeral home. It was like a family business, and she's raised, and she goes off to college and starts like kind of discovering herself, and finds out that her dad killed himself, and she's finding out more about him, and as she's coming to terms with like being a feminist and identifying as a feminist and a lesbian, she also learns that her dad was gay and in the closet for his entire time that she knew him. But it's just a really awesome read as well. So.
Yeah, I don't think I really have new. I think Jessica Valenti's great. I think Bell Hooks is great. Those have been covered. I also think that if you're starting out, you can go to the internet. There's really good stuff there. I think that's an easy, accessible way. I think Feministing, which Jessica Valenti was one of the founders of, is a really good site. Although, in all honesty, it can get heavy if you read it like every morning. It's kind of like, and here's what's wrong with the world today, and it's oh again. But they have a really good like review of it, so I would recommend it. But for me, honestly, it was too much to read every day. For me, I guess I'm emotional. I don't know. And then also, there's just a whole bunch of fabulous blogs out there. This does time
Screw
out.
this mic, guys. Seriously. I'm not paying for that.
Maybe the battery's dead. I don't know. I'm loud. Or I can do this.
Roll my $20 back.
Yeah, blogs. You can just like Google, well, careful, because sometimes you get really offensive stuff. But you can Google feminists. I really like Lipstick Feminist. That's a blog I came on recently, and it's really good. It has a lot of like pictures and cartoons and really short like links and quick things that you can just kind of like flip through. And yeah, so don't be afraid of the internet. And then Jessica Valenti about things too.
I only read Bird and statistics books.
Okay, I'm partially joking. It's kind of daunting being in such an educated crowd who read up on feminism often. I do not. Just saying. I can recommend some field guides. You guys learn your birds, it's important.
Well, you can take feminist theory and read lots and lots and lots, just saying. I guess for me, a couple of books. One that's just really light is just Sandra Cisneros, House on Mango Street. You can read that in an hour. Or Woman Hollering Creek, which deals with domestic violence issues. But she brings in a lot of symbolism about Mexican culture, and she talks a lot about being bicultural. So I really resonate with that, sort of living in the borderlands. Another one that's, I'm a little old school with this, but this Bridge Called My Back, writings by radical women of color. Gloria Anzaldúa and Sherry Moraga edited that, and it was really like the first book written about and by feminists of color to really critique the exclusion that they had experienced with the second wave feminist movement. And so I really recommend that. And for me, it's personal too, because they also talk, many of them, about straddling two cultures, or having to do the work of translating between groups, and quite literally and figuratively, and how that sort of grates on them emotionally as well, but that it's important work to do. And it also tells the reader that, hey, you need to be involved too. That this bridge called my back is a lot of work, and I will help you, but you can't just come and ask for information and have me just explain everything to you.